Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yes, we're just still gathering, so we'll give a couple minutes.
Brian told me there's 60 plus signups for the call party so far, which is good.
Yes. A third of them are out of state, just so you know,
Okay.
but 2/3 of them are in state.
Still good.
Yeah.
Paul, are you here?
I'm here, yep. How you doing, Abby?
I'm good. Are Jeff's here? Susan here?
Jeff is here. I have not seen Susan yet. Anne is here, Dorothy, Lori from the working group.
Super. So Cole, while we're waiting for people, everyone, we're delighted to see you all. What we would like to do is to collect your name, email address, and what CD you're in, what congressional district. And that's going to help us with our organizing a little later on. So would you mind giving us that information in chat? Which is your name, your email address, and your congressional district.
That's before I moved to Canada.
Are you being sarcastic, right?
Yeah.
Thrown in the towel, huh?
But I can't find chat.
It's down there somewhere. Do y'all know your CD, your congressional district?
Yeah, the chat is under, you're often on the screen, it's where it says more and there's 3 dots on top. You click on that and
Yeah,
you'll see
thank you.
chat.
Good for you.
And Abby,
Okay,
if you're
just-
going to launch off into the discussion, I can start capturing this stuff.
You mean you're going to save the chat? Is that what you mean?
I'm going to type it into a spreadsheet, which is the only way I can make sense of something like that.
Oh, okay, whatever you want. I mean, it would be easy to save chat in the end and then we can convert it, whatever you want to do.
Oh, I thought you wanted to use it in the second part of our meeting.
Oh, so it turns out we're not going to break out. We decided, yeah.
Okay.
So folks, welcome to everyone. While we're waiting for people, we would love to get your name, your email address, and your congressional district, which will help us in our organizing a little later on. Tom, can you just put CD, what is that, 5 or 6, Seth Moulton?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll figure it out. Seth Moulton is like 5 or 6.
6. Seth Moulton is 6.
Oh, he's with Susan. Yeah. Julia Franco, can you give us your email address and your congressional district?
Yeah, sorry, I accidentally sent in my name just first, but
No
I put
problem.
it in.
No problem. It's so great to see everyone here. Thank you for coming. Hey, Bruce, you on the beach somewhere?
It is wonderful to see everyone. Can someone explain how this group came together?
I think we sent out an email.
Okay.
Okay, just another minute or so. If you're just joining us, could you please put your name, your email address, and your CD, your congressional district, in the chat for the purpose of organizing a bit later on. Oh, we
I-
decided, sorry?
I see some names and email address or CDs, but lacking the email addresses.
Some of us are part of this group and they know our email addresses.
Yeah. Kathy MM, do we have your email address?
Abby, how do I get it in the column? I have it below to Abby.
I indicated who my congressman was, Stephen Lynch, and then I heard it wasn't enough to give the congressman's name. He wanted the number of the district, so I added that further down. I can redo
Kathy,
the whole thing if you want.
You know,
Kathy,
Abby,
why don't you-
Abby, our database has almost all this information.
almost all, okay, perfect.
Unless there's a person here that's
Good.
absolutely new
Good.
to, I never,
Okay, super. All right, so,
like Kate's iPad, I'm not sure who that is, for example.
Hmm.
But I'm sure they will identify themselves in due course.
sure. Okay, well, this will be very helpful to us in our organizing. So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to put my name is Abby. I'm with the Palestine Israel Working Group of MAPA. I'm just going to put a sort of very high level agenda in the chat. We're going to do some framing of the conversation. Then we'll do a bit of small groups. Hey, Cole, do you have the ability to mute people? Because there's some static in the background.
Yeah, I can look into that.
So then we'll do small groups for us to share whatever's going on for us, you know, our reactions to recent events. Then we'll popcorn out from the small groups into the large group a little bit. Then we'll talk about the political situation. So Cole, that's a piece of what MAPA has done, the impact that we've had, what MAPA is doing. There was a third piece. Yeah, and what we want to do. Sorry, I lost the Zoom. And then we're going to brainstorm actions together. Everyone good with that? Okay, so to start off, I mean, we know that this has been a very difficult time for all of us. Most of us are upset and angry about recent events. And we'd like to find a way to channel our sorrow and our anger into action. And that's what we hope to get to this evening. So I'm going to turn this over to Susan for the framing. Susan, unmute.
My name is Susan Nicholson. I'm one of the coordinators of the Palestine-Israel Working Group at Mass Peace Action. And I think all of us know that the bloodshed and violence did not begin on October 7th. And we will have ample opportunity to get into the context in which that bloodshed has arisen. But it seems to me it's appropriate at this point just to bracket the last 12 days and recognize the humanity of all the innocent civilians on both sides who have lost their lives during those 12 days. Like I think many of you, I struggle to find words to express what I'm feeling. And one way of putting it is that while I'm not at all surprised that Hamas turned to violence in order to break out of the cage of Gaza, I have to confess I am shocked at the scope of the carnage that resulted. And while I'm not at all surprised that the course of action Israel chose was to wreak violence upon those who had heard it, I am incredibly shocked at the levels of magnitude to which that vengeance has risen. So in honor of all the innocents on both sides, and in the hopes that we retain a vision of peace and justice for both peoples, recognizing the humanity on both sides, I think it might be appropriate to just have a moment of silence for all the victims, all those who have died, the innocent civilians who have died, all those who have suffered in terror, all of those who have wondered if they would survive the next hour, and all the suffering of those who have witnessed this, including our own suffering as we try to work our way through that. So let's just take a moment and do that. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff now.
Thank you, Susan. I couldn't agree more with what Susan said. We're all suffering in our own ways, but not as much as the people in Gaza and some of the people in Israel are suffering and have suffered. Just in the few minutes that I want to take, I mean, obviously, almost everyone on this call has been following what's going on to a greater or lesser degree. So I can't give all the details, but just let's bear in mind, I want to emphasize what Susan said, that as horrific as the violence has been since October 7th, if we begin paying attention to the situation only from that point of view, we're erasing the real history that led up to this catastrophe to many Israelis and certainly many more Palestinians in Gaza. So you all know, just a little recap, what's now called the Gaza Strip was part of the British Mandate for Palestine. And in the fighting that preceded and followed Israel's declaration of independence, Gaza was occupied by the Egyptian army and not conquered by the Israelis, and remained under Egyptian occupation until 1967, with the exceptions in 1956, Israel conquered the Gaza Strip and committed some atrocities, and in 1967 they conquered it definitively, as it is today. So really, we need to have a perspective of a century to understand what's going on now. Since 1967, and especially since 2007, Israel has worked to separate the Gaza Strip from the rest of the occupied Palestinian territories. And some of you may know, in the early days, in the 1980s, and since then, Israel has looked at Hamas as something that was beneficial to them, that is, which divided the Palestinians. They actively supported Hamas in the 1980s, and since then have expressed satisfaction with the idea that Gaza can exist as a kind of prison camp outside of the rest of the Palestinian territories, and was happy to have Egypt and Qatar especially to provide whatever humanitarian assistance they could, which removed that burden from the Israelis. But the Gaza Strip is and has been legally occupied by Israel since then. Even though Israeli settlements inside Gaza were removed in 2005, Israel controls the sea, all sides of the land border of Gaza, and with the help of Egypt, which is both an ally of Israel and a client of the United States, makes sure that the Egyptian border with Gaza is also shut. Starting in 2007, basically Israel announced a blockade of Gaza and carefully limited the humanitarian supplies that could go in and out. And since then has frequently attacked Gaza from the air, primarily in actions that they call brutally mowing the lawn. That is, cutting off, as many and killing as many Palestinians in Gaza as they could, understanding that this was going to have to be repeated. And that's happened at least 4 major times since the Israeli blockade of Gaza. So 2.1, 2.3 million people live in a tiny strip of sandy land. For those of us here, think of the outer Cape from Orleans to Provincetown. Many of you have visited. There are 2.1 Palestinians living in the equivalent of that territory. It's very crowded, impoverished, and certainly no place to run to. So the latest flare-up began with a Hamas military attack on Israeli armed forces surrounding Gaza. And then during the course of that, and we don't know the details, we may never know the details, certainly some of the Hamas fighters or other Palestinians committed atrocities in killing Israeli civilians and children. But we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that in the beginning, this was a very justified military attack on the occupying soldiers that were surrounding Gaza. And still to this day, although the figure of 1,300 or 1,400 Israeli dead are often cited, what's left out is that a third to half of them was Israeli military personnel and police. So this began as a military operation, totally legitimate, and then we don't know what happened after that. My best evidence is that the atrocities that took place were not ordered by the central Hamas command. It was carried out by individual enraged fighters. There are other reports from Israelis that they were treated with kindness by Palestinians that occupied their towns. And at least one Israeli report has been that many Israelis were killed by indiscriminate fire from their own security forces in attacking the invading Palestinians from Gaza. So the latest, of course, is this horrific bombing of the Gaza hospital, the Al-Arabi hospital. Again, confusion is sown. What we do know for a fact is that almost 500 people were killed, all of them innocent civilians, men, women, and children. And even if it's possible that we can't absolutely put the blame on an Israeli bomb, there's no question that the thousands of people that were gathered at this hospital were seeking refuge there under the bombing that was taking place in their homes and their towns in the rest of Gaza. So ultimately, the Israeli occupation forces are responsible. We have a catastrophic humanitarian situation. 1 million Gazans are trying to flee from the northern part of the Gaza Strip under orders from the Israelis. Some of their fleeing convoys were bombed by Israel. And in the southern part of Gaza, where people are supposedly gathering to be safe, Israel has also bombed there and killed many people. So that's the situation. If 1,300 Israelis were killed in the initial attack, that will be multiplied many, many times by the Palestinians that will be the victims of this overwhelming military attack. And let us remember that all the planes and all the bombs that are dropped on Gaza are made in the USA, and for the most part purchased with US military aid that we give to Israel, $3.8 billion. And apparently the Israelis are going to be asking for another $10 billion in emergency aid. So our tax money is going to bomb people in Gaza. So I'll stop now. We could go on, but hopefully we'll have a chance to get into more detail later on if we need it. So thank you. Sorry for going on so long.
Jeff, thank you so much for such a cogent, excellent analysis. And thank you, Susan, for that lovely opening.
If I could add one more thing, beyond Palestine, there's a huge danger of a large-scale military conflagration in the Middle East. As you know, the U.S. has sent 2 aircraft carrier battle groups to the coast of Israel, and a Marine amphibious force is also entering the area. So even beyond Palestine, it's a very, very dangerous situation for a much larger scale war in the Middle East.
Thank you, Jeff. If you're all wondering what the noise was in the background, it's Jeff's birds.
Sorry. Sorry about that.
Cole, can you make me co-host, please? So the next thing we're going to do is just to give us all some time to talk about, how we're feeling at the moment, what has been the impact on you of the recent events, and we're going to put you into small groups and maybe have 4 people per group and 8 minutes or so to talk to each other. Sound good? Dorothy? Dorothy, unmute.
I'd like to add to what Jeff said, that my friends who are Lebanese tell me that the families in southern Lebanon have been forced to flee because Israel is dropping white phosphorus on them.
Yeah. Jeff, you have to unmute.
I should have added that the U.S. has vetoed 2 UN Security Council resolutions calling for a ceasefire or a humanitarian pause to allow supplies to get into Gaza. The U.S. vetoed the second one just today.
Yeah. Okay, are y'all interested in going into small groups? Can I see a show of hands? Okay, so we'll do that for about 8 minutes. Let's see. 8. Okay, you ready? Hold on tight, off you go. Steve, are you going off? Oh, there you went. Let's see, Louise, where is she?
Am I unable to be assigned because I'm host, perhaps?
Do you want to be assigned? Did you say yes?
I think one person has to stay in the lobby, but
Would you like to be in a small group or you want to stay here?
either way is fine.
Yeah.
What's your preference?
I'm fine being here.
Okay. All right, assign me.
Send you?
You can assign me then. Like room 8. I'm going to go to 8 because it doesn't have very many people.
Some.
Oh,
Yeah.
look, here's another unfamiliar guy. This is what you call an intimate group.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it is really demoralizing. I mean, the big majority in Congress and, of course, the White House and the State Department, their main intent seems to be to allow the Israelis to wreak as much violence as they can in Gaza. And officially, they're opposed to any move toward a ceasefire or a humanitarian pause. And that's really bloodthirsty, I have to say. I mean, you may have read the State Department forbids anyone in the State Department officially to use the term ceasefire. And it's really pretty bloody, and
Yeah.
well, anyway.
I think their
Well, it
frame
says
is that,
that
Israel is a democracy, Israel is a state, it's a civilized country, and Hamas is this ragtag bunch of crazies. And yeah, Israel's stated aim is to obliterate Hamas, eliminate it as an organization, eliminate it as a force. And they really haven't broken down what they think that's going to take, because Hamas must have at least tens of thousands of militants, both on the political and the military side. And if you're going to, kill that many people and destroy all their equipment and you're going to lay waste to Gaza, and I think they must know that.
Yeah, and of course they have families, children, neighbors that are being slaughtered, basically, and that seems to be worth it. Which is the right? This is the history of our policy. Remember when Madeleine Albright was asked about 500,000 Iraqi children that died because of the U.S. blockade? She said, "It's worth it. It's worth it."
And the U.S. could so easily stop this. U.S. can still support Israel. It doesn't have to enable Israel to destroy an entire millions of people. They can survive without doing this. It's hard to figure in a way. I mean, they're so, because, what are they doing? I don't know, trying to figure out, are they still locked into this Israel ideology that they can't see past it and they can't even think of what they're doing? They're going to.
Well, the first time I went to Israel in 2004 with a group of primarily Jewish medical people, we had an interview with Ruchama Marton, who's an Israeli psychiatrist, a left-winger. And someone, one of the people in our group who was very distraught as a Jew said, how can the Jews that suffered so much, how can they inflict so much pain and suffering on the Palestinians?
Right.
And Ruchama's reply was, we had the best teachers, meaning the Nazis.
Yeah.
But I think I told you this, Jeff, that, there's a theory from Wilfred Bion, who was a British psychologist. And there's a theory about this, which Ruchama speaks about. Oh, I have to let somebody in. Hold on a minute. What group are we? What number are we?
8.
I'll assign her to us. Oh, it's a him. Oh, it's a her. Hi, Valentine. Welcome.
Hi. Sorry, I was on another Zoom, and so that's why I'm a little bit late. It's been a busy day, classes and 2 Zoom sessions.
That's fine. So we're just going around talking about, how we're feeling about events and what the impact has been. So I'm just going to finish my sentence.
Yeah, please.
The theory is that if Israel, and she said this, if Israel didn't have an enemy, an external enemy, they would have created one, because they need a focus externally from them, because they can't handle the interior contradictions among them. If they didn't have an enemy outside, they would be just like, fighting each other and just having angry conflict with each other. So because they can't reconcile their internal differences, they externalize it to an enemy.
Well, who is this? Who said this?
Israel.
Wilfred Bion, Bion. He's no longer alive. He was in the 20th century. He was a famous psychologist. He created something called Tavistock.
No, Israel must be, Israel is in a bind. I've never been there, but the people are in a pressure cooker. The contradictions of their project are severe. But it's different for the US. Like I'm thinking I'm kind of not surprised that Israel's doing what it always does with Gaza, except worse. But the US is to me is devoid of all reason. I mean, what are they trying to blow up the whole Middle East? That's what this is going to lead to. They've been trying.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Let's let Valentine speak.
Well, I think like everyone, I've been really despondent about what's been going on. And frankly, I can't see a way out because of, in part, what Cole was just saying, that, the contradictions within Israel itself are so intense and so sharp. It's really hard to imagine a way out. and also because the US all these decades has allowed Israel to literally get away with murder. And to the extent that, both political parties are almost 100% behind Israel, means that, I don't know how this conflict will end. One thing I do want to say is, of course, I'm at Northeastern University, and I've had classes this week. And I've actually been impressed by the fact that my Jewish students also are willing to speak very negatively about Israel. And in the past, that hasn't been the case at Northeastern. And in fact, a couple of my colleagues who teach Middle East studies have gotten in trouble for some of their statements. So, that may be a small n, so to speak, a small number, but that's been very interesting to me. But as I said, I can't see a way out of this. I don't know what borders we can actually go back to, 47, 67. I mean, the US isn't going to allow any of this, but the US position is clearly an indication of its declining hegemony, and it is kicking and screaming to
Thank you, Valentine. We're going to
prevent.
lose you. Okay, welcome back. So let's just popcorn a few thoughts. What struck you? What stood out for you in your small groups? Just raise your hand or raise your virtual hand there.
Well, I think we're all feeling a lot of grief and anger and trying to do whatever we can, whether it's writing letters or, for me, it's the work on the calendar.
Thank you, Anne. Who else?
I didn't have a chance to finish what I was saying, but Israel, every time it does a massacre or bombing of Gaza, it never does any good. I mean, the problem will come up again because the cruelty continues and the siege continues. So all this killing that Israel does every so often does really no good at all. I just don't see why they keep doing it. And something occurs to me, Israel has said that they're going to have no food, water, or electricity to Gaza. Well, if Palestinians are starving, the hostages are going to starve. If they have no water, the hostages have no water. I really wonder if Israel's thought this through.
Yeah.
Okay, I yield back. Yeah.
They have thought it through. They know exactly what they're doing. And I don't think it's an accident. And I think that this is what we've all been afraid of, which is the potential for another forced displacement and ethnic cleansing of the entirety of Gaza. And the reason why Egypt is saying, no, we won't take them, is because they won't be allowed back. And the calls for ethnically cleansing all of Gaza and the West Bank are getting more and more strident within Israeli society.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. Let's hear from some more people. Glenn and then Susan.
I just want to comment about how the dumpster fire of social media is even more intense and more hot and the fumes of the trash are even more like burning your chest, because it's just like, oh God. And then I post stuff that after about a few minutes I'm like, oh God, maybe I didn't provide enough context, or I'm probably pissing off at least a good chunk of my friends. I didn't mean to. I just don't want any civilians getting bombed by anyone in any way, in any shape or form. And then I'm like, oh crap, I hope I don't mess up that statement. And then I'm like, do I even have to say anything? Can I just process this in silence? And it's like, all my friends are upset. And I'm like, I feel like I gotta contribute somehow. And then it's just like, and being chronically online is,
thank you, Glenn.
Makes it tough.
Thanks. Susan?
I think one idea that
Susan Mirsky? Susan Mirsky?
Oh, sorry.
Lots of Susans around here. I think we talked about grief and outrage. I felt
so much better going to the rally and standing with Palestinian families and people and hearing what they had to say. That was helpful. But also understanding this and the U.S. our response as part of a wider political agenda that we have, so that it is dealing with Iran and it's not just Palestine or not just Gaza.
Thanks. Susan Nicholson?
I think one idea that came out of our group was that Hamas's action has shattered the myth of Israel's invincibility and the notion that it could just dismiss, erase the Palestinian issue and go on without any adverse effects, and that that's potentially a good thing.
Who else?
Can I just say that I do have a recording of the Hamas leadership giving a speech in English, I believe last Friday. They might if they were the actual leaders, the names weren't on there, they might very well be dead by now, but it was a very reasonable explanation of what they were doing. And I'd be happy to share that in the chat if anyone's
That'd be great.
interested.
That'd be great. Thank you. Yeah. Is there anyone else who hasn't had a chance to speak who'd like to offer something? Valentine, is that a finger?
Yes, sorry, I was looking for the chat function. Oh, there it is. Well, I was absolutely appalled by the Hamas attack. I thought it was strategically very stupid. But I understand it to be a way of their response to the sidelining of the Palestinian issue and also the visibility and actually the expansion of the Abraham Accords. And of course, a number of these, Arab countries have joined the Abraham Accords. I don't know, am I repeating something or have you already discussed that? And of course, Saudi Arabia was next on the list to join. So I think that might have triggered the Hamas, attack to bring Palestine back, put it back on the map and say that, no, you cannot simply dismiss us. We're still here, even though I think that it was still very strategically wrong. I mean, it's one thing to attack military, it's one thing to attack those awful settlers on the West Bank, but their choice of victims was, I think, just dreadful. And of course, the people of Gaza are suffering as a result of that. But I think that was their motivation, which means that the Abraham Accords will now be re-interrogated. And it's very likely that some of because they were huge. So Morocco, for example, joined the Abraham Accords, but there have been huge demonstrations in Morocco. And I'm pretty sure that Saudi Arabia right now is going to be taking, a step backwards and saying, we can't do this in this, context.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not
going to
muted.
call on Sandy Eaton. Go ahead, Sandy.
Yeah, thanks. I think Susan Mirsky did summarize from our discussion in our breakout group some of the high points around the dangers, the greater danger, the possibility when a Republican in Congress calls for a war on in Iran, and we've got two carrier task forces in the Eastern Mediterranean, and the fact that Lebanon, which had been occupied by Israel in the 80s and was driven out by Hezbollah. So we've got a very toxic situation, and the pogroms against by the settlers against the Palestinian villages in the West Bank. And folks should realize that whole fence separating Gaza from Israel has been staffed with snipers who have been shooting young folks, particularly, who go there to demonstrate their frustration at being trapped in this prison. When they go there, they're shot, either killed or more recently just shot to be crippled. And so this righteous anger of the Palestinian people, which the Hamas forces reflected in tearing down that fence, getting out an old bulldozer and ripping it apart, and then showing, as others have said, showing that Israel is not good. And Bibi Netanyahu's got to go. He was really got bailed out by this, so that he won't be going to prison in the short term. Thanks.
Thank you. Noble and then Pat.
Just taking on, expanding a little bit on what Val had said a minute ago. In addition to, I think, kind of putting an end to the Abraham Accords, it's a normalization. This, and we discussed this in our breakout group for a minute. I think this is making every Arab government in the world take a position now. They're either with Israel or they're with the Palestinians. There's nothing in between, and they've been able to just hedge their bets for years. I think this has changed that.
Thanks, Pat.
I think we talked a little bit about motivation, and that the press and most people appear to be thinking that the motivation for Hamas is, or for Israel right now, is revenge. But for years, it seems like Israel has tried everything it possibly can do to get rid of all the people in Gaza, and that they've been roped into making this response. And that the people, I was in touch today with someone from Sderot, which is right on the border with Gaza. So that was one of the places that was mostly wiped out. She's okay, and she is steadfast, although she's grieving and fearful. She's steadfast in her wanting to have Israel get out of, stop doing what they're doing to Gaza. And three, when I think about the motivation for what Biden is saying and for these crazy comments, I think I'm trying to think the best way to stop our government from doing this is to try to figure out why are they doing this, and maybe try to address that. And are they doing it to try to get reelected? Do they think this will make them more electable, that they pull the country together and then we're going to vote for them? Because if that's the case, is there some way that we can address that?
Yeah. Thank you, Pat. Thank you. So I think last comment to Claire. Go ahead, Claire.
Mary has a hand up.
Oh, I didn't see it. So just a minute, Claire, and then Mary will be the last one.
Just be careful about the statistics and stories that you're getting. Most of them are coming out of Israel. Jonathan Cook, who's a podcaster, I glanced at something he just sent out, so I may not have it completely accurate. But most of the people, the Israelis that were killed, were soldiers. And that was the initial intention of Hamas, according to him. And and that what happened was, some hotheads got, the situation got out of control. But initially, it's 50% were at least Israeli soldiers that were the objects of their attacks.
Yeah, so we could have that conversation. I don't think we should go there, but just in Jeff's opening statement, he said that 30% were soldiers. So a little bit of dispute. Mary, you get the last word for this piece.
Well, I think this will be a very nice last word. I just received a note in WhatsApp from a friend of mine in Cuba, and I just put it in Google Translate so I could put it quickly in English. And it says, a great little miracle has occurred, almost completely ignored by the media. Thousands of Hebrew, Muslim, and Christian women have walked together in Israel for peace. In the new official video of the Women Wage Peace movement, Israeli singer Yael Deckelbaum sings the song Prayer of the Mothers alongside women and mothers of all religions, showing what music can change, an all-female miracle that is worth 1,000 words. Share it as much as you can. Shalom, salam, peace. And she links to the YouTube, and I'm going to put that in the chat.
Please do.
Thank you so, oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Mary.
Well, thank you, Hina Ray in Cuba.
Yeah, so great transition. Thank you for that. We're going to transition to the next part, which is Cole is going to tell us about the political situation. But before I forget, if there's anyone who's not on the MAPA list, could you please put your name and email address in the chat so we'll be able to contact you after this webinar. Cole, we're going to turn to you. So what has MAPA done? What impact have we had? What's MAPA doing, and what do we want to do?
So I'm just going to touch on a couple pieces. Hope I get the right screen here. I'm sorry. Where are the mothers? Jake Auchincloss has distinguished himself by demanding violence and punishment on Gaza. He is, at least in Massachusetts, by far the most outspoken with that view. So we have to, put him in a special category. There have been 3 political expressions of caution. Last Friday, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, 55 progressives, came out with a letter pointing to the humanitarian danger in Gaza and calling on the president to take that into account. And in our state, it was Presley and McGovern that signed on to that. Yesterday or the day before, Cori Bush came out with a bill called the Ceasefire Now Resolution, and that's now going to be our major rallying point, calling for the U.S. policy to support a ceasefire and using the term occupied Palestine. And that bill number is HRES 786. That bill number just came out in the last few hours. It took a couple of days after the press conference before they announced the bill numbers. I'm just going to post it. So we're going to advocate for that bill. And then separately, Jim McGovern signed on to another letter by Jayapal this morning calling for a ceasefire. It's not clear yet to us why these 7 progressives did not sign on to Cori Bush's bill, but they issued a letter which appears to us to make similar points. I think you could say their rhetoric is a little bit more towards the mainstream than Cori Bush's is, but aside from that, they're also calling for a ceasefire. We also call for no U.S. military aid to Israel. We expect Jeff mentioned that it was going to be a $10 billion ask. They also have a pending ask for $24 billion for Ukraine that the Congress has not acted on in more than a month. And so the latest news is that the administration is thinking of asking for $100 billion for Israel, Ukraine, Taiwan, and border security to build more fences and hire more agents at the border. And maybe they'll toss in a few other things like relief for Maui or something else. So this package has not yet come together or been sent to Congress, and the House has no speaker. This is a money bill. Money bills must originate in the House. So this bill will not, this money will not move in Congress until they choose a speaker. But assuming they figure out how to solve that problem, it seems likely they might vote on this package next week. They won't craft the package until they're pretty sure it will pass. As you know, there's a lot of Republicans that don't want to send any more aid to Ukraine. In fact, most of the people that are running for speaker are committed not to send any more to Ukraine. So they have to work that out before they put this package together. But nevertheless, we can expect them to figure out how to do that and to come up with a bill with aid to Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan, military aid next week. Just more broadly, I'm just stop sharing that. This is the top issue in U.S. politics last week and this week. Every campus is at war over this issue, right? Faculty are issuing one letter, presidents of the college issue another letter, the students issue another letter. They're all criticizing each other. I think at Harvard, there have been 3 rallies already. Donors have dropped out of Harvard, major donors, like multi-billion donors, because they're not tough enough on the pro-Palestinian students, and so on and so on. So this is happening everywhere. Boston City Council was debating resolutions today very emotionally. There was a pro-Israel resolution and there was a pro-even-handed resolution. And I actually don't know where it stands. I don't think they ended up passing either one yet. In terms of MAPA, we we organized a rally in Northampton back on the 10th. That was last Tuesday. It was well attended and a number of groups joined with us. We've attended various other rallies. We issued our statement on the 7th, and it's not too long. I might just take a minute to read it or make sure everybody, is that okay if I do that?
Is it short, Cole?
Gotta
And
find
if not, maybe you could put a link in the chat.
put a link in the chat. But anyway, calls for ceasefire and no military aid, in short, and it condemns violence against civilians by all sides. We also wrote an article, Jeff wrote an article, Palestinian Lives Matter, which is posted on our website, and we also sent that out. We also sent 2 action alerts so far. The first one last week, which was really just our statement, got 945 signatures, people that took the action, meaning they sent an email to our 2 senators and to their 2 senators and their representative, because our action alerts do reach outside of the state. We're a state group, but we have a number of people on our list. Maybe a third of the people on our list are in other states, so they went to other senators. We sent a second message yesterday supporting the ceasefire now resolution of Cori Bush, and reiterating that we don't want any more arms to be sent. We did not get as many people to sign that, only 187, possibly because we coupled it with a second ask, a second way of delivering the same message to Congress, which is we're holding an action hour tomorrow night. Glenn and Brian are working on that, in which we will, people will come in, we'll talk about the situation, and then we will together call. Everyone will kind of put your Zoom on mute and call your 2 senators and your representative and deliver the message. So that's the action hour. And, beyond that, I guess our thoughts are that Congress is our best pressure point, right? The administration is pretty far gone on this one. It's pretty hard to imagine how we can build political pressure in the short term to stay the administration's hand. Our best shot is to try to move Congress. And we have 9 congressional districts in Massachusetts. So I believe we have people from all 9 on the call tonight. So one suggestion would be to go after your own member of Congress. There's multiple ways to do that. You can call them, you can hold a candlelight vigil outside of their office, you can camp out in their office until they agree to talk to you, whatever it takes to get through to these people. But basically, as I outlined, we really have 2 supporters in our congressional delegation, Presley and McGovern, for some kind of restraint. That doesn't mean they're all the way there to end the occupation and move to a totally new U.S. policy, but at least they have a much more realistic policy than the administration. But the other 7 House representatives and the 2 senators have not been so outspoken. I will stop there and turn it back over to Abby.
Super.
May I mention more
So-
details about the call party?
Hold on one second. So Glenn, I think I'm putting the link to the call party. I put the link in the chat there for people to register. Is there anything else you want to add to that piece, Glenn?
Briefly, just that the way I pitched it on my social media account is that anyone that thinks war crimes are bad should come. And that maybe that's not a far enough statement for some people, but I'm trying to make it like just killing civilians is bad. The war hawks on the media are drumming big wars of pain and suffering, and that's bad, and that there needs to be a counterweight of sanity. That's it.
Thank you, Glenn. Cole, was there anything you wanted to add about, we've all been working very hard on this issue for a long, long time. Is there anything you want to share about the impact, the positive impact we've had?
Well, I think it's evident in the press coverage and in the in the global coverage that the mood has shifted, right? It was unconditional support for Israel 10 years ago. And frankly, the administration is still trying to stay there, but the public has changed. And you can see that the press is now covering the fact that Israel is killing civilians in Gaza every day. They're also, covering the war and Israel's plans, but the narrative that Israel is violating human rights is now absolutely mainstream. That doesn't mean the political class is caught up, but they know we're after them. I think it's positive that both Presley and McGovern have stepped out within the first week of this conflict. That was not a given in the past, right? Presley has moved since she first came in.
Sure.
McGovern used to dodge this issue as hard as he could, and now he's out there leading a letter. So I think we, not just we, but the whole public is getting through.
Yeah, super. Thank you. So I do see your two hands, Louise and Anne. Can you hold on 1 minute, because I want to do something before you speak, which is we're going to ask all of us to brainstorm actions so that we can harness our energies to take action. And some of the things we've identified are us visiting the offices of our elected officials within our congressional districts. So we want to ask you, your district, we want to ask for volunteers to take the lead within your CD. So I'm going to put the list here. Pat, I don't know do you mean to be, should I put your name for your CD3 or not? To take, yes? And Noble, are you going to take the lead for CD5?
Yes, you can remove the question mark.
Thank you. Okay, so what we need are volunteers for CD1, CD2, CD7, and CD9. Laurie Hall, I don't know if you were gonna are you gonna do CD9?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
I have been to his office several times. I never can see him. I see some aide.
Yeah.
I have no idea if anything gets through. I went with a bunch of letters that the UU church had written, and I never heard anything. It's a very futile exercise. I can go there, or I don't know. I mean, it would organize a bunch of people to go. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay, if you would send me a list of the people, how can I contact them if
I
don't know who they are? Yeah.
Very, very good. So here's what I've got. I'm going to put Lori with CD9. We'd like volunteers to be the lead organizer within your group. And yes, we will send you, if you volunteer, we will send you the list of people within your CD so that you can organize with them and sort of schedule meetings with them. Okay, so I see a bunch of hands. I'm just going to call on.
My hand is about this.
Wait a second. If you can volunteer to organize in your CD, could you please put it in chat? And while you're doing that, we're going to hear from people. So Mary and then Anne.
I just want to say that I can't lead in CD1, but I would love to be part of something with Richard Neal. And I'm wondering if anybody has spoken to the Nonviolence Project in Springfield. That might be a question for Cole, who knows them.
Cole, unmute.
I don't really know them. I've dialogued a bit by email, but no, I haven't reached out to them about this matter. Wayne is also in CD1.
Oh, who just asked? Thank you, Susan Mirsky. I don't have a name for CD4. Well, we need a volunteer for CD4.
Well, Susan is MAPA's general lead in that district, so she's probably the first one.
Susan, are you offering to be the lead in your CD?
I can do that, but there are people within Newton who are very, very active on this issue, and I would not want to take on leadership if they wanted to do it. So, I would ask them first.
Okay. Okay, very good. So I know, Anne, I saw you. Anne, can I pick on some people who haven't spoken yet and then come back to you? Anne Perry?
Yes, but I do have to leave soon because I have choir practice.
Okay, so very quickly,
If
Anne?
you're planning on continuing for a while, I'm gonna have to sign off.
So very quickly, Anne, your comment?
Well, I added to it with the CD9, we have an email going with Lori and Mark, who I don't think is here tonight. And then I saw that Bruce and Keith are also CD9. So I didn't see email for Bruce, but I just started a draft and maybe we can get together. The other thing I just wanted to say was I haven't heard tonight that the word genocide, and what we're seeing tonight is genocide. That all the experts are saying this is clearly genocide.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that out
Thank
there
you.
for our letters. And then lastly, I'm going to put in the chat for anyone interested in attending more webinars on this issue or in-person events on this issue. I'm putting links to the calendar and a link to sign up for
Super.
alerts,
Thank
which
you.
is going out daily.
Thank you.
And
So
I'm going to stay for another 5 minutes and then I'm just going to leave. So thank you.
Thank you. So I did see a bunch of hands. I do see you. Just hold on a second because there's a lot of people who want to talk. Anne Capocia, you were raising your hand. And Dorothy and others who are raising your hand, could you actually raise your virtual hand so we can see you in the list up there? If you click on the reactions at the bottom, click on reactions and then click on raise your hand. But I do, Anne, you had your hand raised. Did you want to say something, Anne? Is she there? Maybe she'll come back. Laurie Hall, I saw your hand waving.
Yes, I don't know how to put it in the chat thing, but I have, we got a click on email that went to a bunch of editors. I'm sure you all got it. I can't remember if it was JVP or who it was. It went to a bunch of editors, but I wrote a short note in it that it was a Holocaust of Palestinians. It's also a genocide, but it's like a Holocaust. There are no gas chambers, but they're trying to eliminate. Really, the Israelis want all the Palestinians out of not only Gaza. They really don't want them in the West Bank either. So that's
Thank you. Okay, so here's what I see. Dorothy, can you raise your virtual hand because I have a list here of people. So I'm going to call on Louise and then Noble. Louise, unmute.
What's the virtual hand?
Sorry.
I've
I'm
got
in
you.
Auchincloss's district. It was just got rearranged. I used to be with McGovern. So anyway, I was just thinking that I'll talk to Susan some more about this, but it just seems like since Auchincloss is the most one of the most strident and most hostile, that it would be really perhaps interesting and would make sense to like really work on talking to his staff and his office and just seeing where that could go. He just it seems like he's being really unreasonable, but he'd be an interesting person because he's so dramatic and so negative.
Yeah. Dorothy?
Yeah, I didn't know how to do my hand. I want to make 2 points. In response to Pat's question about why legislators are talking and thinking the way they are, much of it is money. And it's not going to change a whole lot until after the elections next year, because there's a lot of Zionist pressure to give money or not give money, depending on how they vote, what they stand for. So that's point one. The second thing is, I don't know if you all missed it, but whoever is in the Moulton district, he did a fascinating interview on either MSNBC or CNN and talked about how he'd gone into Fallujah and after killing innocent people had to go back and work in the area to kind of restore some kind of relationship between the United States and the Iraqis. And he predicted the same kind of problem here. So whoever is meeting with Moulton, you might want to pick up on what he's been saying publicly.
Thank you. Okay, Noble.
I think it's really important for us, and this is pretty obvious, to be working with our allied groups like JVP. They have a really good presence in these areas. My plan in CD5, I've got a letter that I'm going to be circulating, and I want to send to Clark. It's mainly asking for a meeting with her, and of course she's going to try to deflect us into an aid. And at some point, I think we will simply start having standouts, and I think they should be regular. They don't have to be huge, but fairly small ones. So that's my strategy. Also, if not now is another good group.
Excellent, thank you. Mary Ellen, Louise, oh yeah, you went. Mary Ellen?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say I'm in CD4, and CD4 is a peculiarly shaped district. It spans, the more affluent area of Greater Boston, Newton Brookline, and then down here on the South Coast, which is a fairly impoverished area, at least Fall River certainly is. So I personally, down in Fall River, have a challenge. And I guess the second thing is I have a challenge locally. Auchincloss has 2 offices. He has the one in Newton. He has another in Attleboro. And it might be a good idea if we could have a 2-pronged effect. I could do what I can to, get some kind of effort to approach that office, or even have a standout or something to call attention to him in Attleboro that would reinforce and coincide with anything that we do in Newton.
Sounds like a good idea.
Okay, so we're going to capture that, and maybe afterwards we can find other people on the MAPA list who live near Attleboro. Eva Mosley. Eva, unmute. Eva, unmute.
Sorry. I also want to say about CD4 that there is a pretty large JVP presence there, and we should be working with them. I'm sure they're very busy with this issue.
Right. Okay, thank you. Elaine. Elaine, unmute, please. Elaine. Can you unmute so we can hear you? I'm going to come back to you. Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, I put in the chat, but I just want to remind everybody that, as Cole pointed out, I want to reemphasize, Ayanna Presley has been by far the best on this situation of any of our delegation. And she needs to hear from people that support her. I mean, McGovern has been, not too bad. And Lynch has sponsored some good stuff, but Presley is really out there. And she's probably taking a lot of heat for it. So really everybody should take the time to call her office and send her a message of support.
Super. Anything else about this? Oh, so what we're hoping is that we suggest that you schedule a meeting in the next few days at your elected official's office, and maybe what Noble was saying in terms of having a standout there. I think it's both and, Noble. Standout, meeting with them, right?
Well, yes, the point when they don't give you a meeting, which they won't with Auchincloss does evidently, but the standout is to get a meeting with the rep, not the staff.
Yeah.
Just one thing about, I had one point about Presley, she's not obviously in leadership, but I think she has a huge national presence. So I think it's really important to support her. She's kind of a moral leader, I think, in a way, nationally.
Yeah. Elaine, did you figure out how to unmute yourself? Maybe she's thinking about it. Pat.
I'm wondering, I think it makes sense to be in contact with the legislative people in our districts before we set up a meeting. And maybe, and I know MAPA has a lot of contacts in offices. So are you suggesting, for those of us who don't already have a contact, are you facilitating that? I think a lot of what happens between in individual conversations with a constituent who develops a relationship with a legislative or foreign policy contact in a particular office.
Cole, can you respond to that?
Yeah, I think that's right. And so Abby, you called out a few districts where you wanted to know who would coordinate, but what about all the other districts? Could you go through, do we have a plan, or can we build a plan for each district of who's gonna pull together our work?
I did, Cole. I put it in the chat,
Thank
and
you,
I put
thank you.
who we know.
Thank you.
We don't know. So I think I got Susan Mirsky in there, and Susan will check with some others who are taking the lead. And there's some here that we don't have. So is anyone here who is in the district of Neal, McGovern, or Presley? I think Laurie, I'm going to put you down for Laurie Hall.
I am in Neal's district, and I have said that I can act, but I can't take the lead. I thought you said that Laurie was going to coordinate that, and I'll be happy to try to work with her, but I just can't take the lead in it.
I thought Laurie Hall is in CD9 with
He
Keating.
is, yeah.
CD9.
Okay, so I'm in CD1.
So the other person that's in one is Wayne. I wonder if he's in position to work on this.
Yes, to work on it, but I don't think I'm available enough to be right now. Later, I could be to be the leadership. And I think if I brought the whole group down to his office, it would be Mary and me.
Well, I think we should get in touch with the non-violence people, and I'm sure that they're already contemplating working on it.
Mm.
And that's Michael. I don't know his last name, but I think Neil would be very important.
We have some names of people who signed from CD1, who signed the Palestinian 6 campaign. So perhaps if the two of you can find someone among that list or on that list who can take
What I'm
on
saying, I'm sorry, Pat, but what I'm saying is I can't do that at this point. I just can follow somebody else.
Right. Okay. And maybe someone will send a letter to that group and see if there's someone who's willing to lead. But at any rate, I understand neither one of you can take that sole leadership at this time.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, in terms of the agenda, are we going to try to brainstorm other ways we might
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So let's see if we can wrap up this piece. Jackie, can you, I can't see you. Are
I
you?
guess if I may, Abby, it seems to me that to wrap up this piece, we'll have to go through all 9 districts and identify who's going to work within that district. Is that something you're planning on doing, or are you comfortable doing, or no?
Cool. So here's what I thought we were going to do, which is why we had asked at the outset for people to put their name and email address and district, which was after the fact that we would email them and say, here are the other people in your district, which we'd like you to contact and work with them. Does that plan still work? Or did you have another? Jeff and Susan, do you want to weigh in? Because we decided we weren't going to break into CD groups.
So I think we have to follow up, as best we can afterwards. And if there's no one who's taken the sort of responsibility, we'll at least email something to every CD group. We in a working group have a breakdown of about 400 names divided by CDs, and hopefully MAPA can provide us with their larger number of people by CD, and we can sort of have targeted communications on that basis.
Yeah. And Cole, people are writing people who can't take the lead, but they are saying, I'm in this district. So Jackie King is in Presley's district, which is great. and Claire Schaefer Duffy, we knew that. She's in CD2.
Yeah.
Just one point, at standouts, you don't have to be from the district. Some of the districts, I know it's going to be hard to get folks out there, but say CD1's, when it's in the far west, but folks from say CD2 might come and help. They don't card you there, so at least.
Okay, Mary?
I just looked back to the Christmas truce for Ukraine, where I have the list of people who helped organize that or to whom we outreached. And some of those are in Springfield. So I think if I can work with somebody, I can see if there's people there who want to take some leadership or are doing anything. I just really am so overstretched that I can't do much.
Sure.
But is there somebody who could work with me on that?
Is there an intern, Cole?
Well, Graham is an intern that's joining our group as of
I
tonight.
mean, somebody in this group who's going to take some leadership on it.
Oh,
I can reach out.
Just to do the initial outreach with me.
I can do that.
Who's that? Is that you, Wayne?
Yeah.
Wayne.
Yes.
I'll put my email in the chat.
Great. Thank you.
That's terrific.
Okay, so Cole, does our plan stand in terms of we're going to follow up with everybody afterwards? We're going to share the names of for the people within the CDs of other people in their CDs and let them self-organize.
Okay. Can I ask a question?
Cole?
In my view, I think we know, if you just allow me for a second. So in CD1, we got Mary and Wayne. In CD3, we got Pat and Glenn. In 2, the only person we got here is Mohammed. I think you're in CD2. In 4, we have Susan Mirsky and Mary Ellen that have spoken. In 5, we have Noble. In 6, we have Susan. In 7, Jackie spoke, but it wasn't clear she was taking leadership. We have a lot of activists in 7, but our perennial problem in that district is nobody's ready to step forward and coordinate. So there's an opportunity there to coordinate just in the short term. In 8, it's Jeff Klein, and in 9, it's Lori. So the biggest holes I see where nobody has really been clear is 2 and 7.
Yeah. So people,
If anyone wanted to speak to that right now, that would be great. Otherwise, we can deal with it later.
So people have put names in chat. They're people who can't take the lead, but we can follow up with them afterwards. So Jonathan King and Andrew King are in CD7. Graham's offering to help with CD4. Mohammed's in CD2, can't take the leadership, but can help out. And we should talk to Claire Schaefer Duffy in CD2. So I see 3 hands, and I just want to check. Can I call on Mary Ellen and then do a check with the group? So Mary Ellen, go ahead.
Thanks, Abby. So I am very close to people who are in CD9. Fall River actually used to be split between 4 and 9. And so whoever is in charge of 9, I would like to be in contact with, because I can help out if there's any efforts.
Yes, so look at your Hollywood squares for Laurie Hall, who's waving her hand. She's like, Mary Ellen, look over here.
Okay. Okay, Laurie, thanks. Great.
Yeah. Bonnie Ann is offering to help in CD1. So she's new, but we love having new people, and
Yes.
Thank you for offering whatever help you can give, Bonnie. I see Pat and Noba, but Laurie, are you waiting to speak?
I have a question. And that is, I thought you were going to email me the list of people in CD9. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we want to, it's 7:20, Jeff, I did see your hand. It's 7:20. And what we wanted to do was brainstorm other actions we could take. So I think, can we put a tie on this piece now? Is there anyone who has something burning to say about organizing by CD? Noble.
Well, we do have folks, there's a CD leaders group, which I think is more of a JVP initiative, but I'm part of that, so is Pat. And we have a couple of folks in CD7 that are there, and maybe Susan knows these people too.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. And since I'm representing for both that group and this group, and we're meeting monthly to talk about how to organize in CDs, which we were asked to do in the MAPA group. it's, there needs to be some clarification at some point as to how to do these two things at the same time. And this was a question that was raised back a year ago when this whole subject first came up. So
Okay,
it's an
Susan
open
Mirsky?
question.
Yeah, no, actually, that was what I was going to say. You know, for those areas where we don't have somebody to lead, go to Jewish Voices for Peace and find people who, you know, are active in that. And so Pat and Noble, that's exactly it.
We're already working with them. We met this morning.
Very
So
good.
It's confusing. We
Thank
need to
you.
clarify
Thank you.
somehow.
Jeff Klein?
So one thing that we can help with in the CDs, especially where there are people who are worried about being overburdened, we can compose a letter to your member of Congress expressing some of our idea, you know, a desire for a ceasefire and so on, and asking for a meeting, which then you could use to circulate and get as many people from the district as possible to sign. And that should be fairly easy, you know, by email. So we can work on composing a sort of generic letter, which will work for at least 7 out of the 9 CDs, because people haven't done anything good. And you know, that's a useful thing. Asking people to sign kind of gets them to read something, take some action, and you're more likely to get a meeting if you ask for it with the signatures of a lot of constituents.
Good idea.
Okay, very good. Dorothy, hold on one second. We're going to start brainstorming actions. So if you have ideas, please you can use the chat. So start typing your idea in the chat. We're going to listen to Dorothy.
To me right now?
Yes.
Do we want to invite some Palestinians to go with us to these meetings?
Yeah.
Nadal Al-Azraq is in Clark's district, and Munir and Nyla Gervanis are in Medford or Malden.
Yeah, they're in 5.
Temporarily. And I'm sure I could find some more.
Which one is Nidal in? Which district?
Clark.
Okay. Okay. So are we done with this piece? Can we talk about other action steps? What ideas do people have for other things we could be doing?
Well, can I speak?
Yes, and then Susan Mirsky. Go ahead, Dorothy.
I wondered if we could have a candlelight vigil in front of our Congress people's houses or offices, or not offices, but houses.
So I think thanks, Mary. So, you know, candlelight vigils, yeah, put it in the chat there, Dorothy. But of course, somebody's going to have to organize that, and maybe that's also, or I don't know, organized within the CD, but you don't have to be in that CD to go to that person to join the group. Susan Mirsky and then Louise.
I was thinking about communities of faith. So, you know, that might be the Quakers, that might be some Catholic, various communities of faith, all of them, even the Jewish ones.
Yep. Louise?
I forgot. No, I was thinking about the ways to use in different towns, like the local community ways of communicating with people. Like there's oftentimes like there's next like I live in Sherborne, so there's next door Sherborne. I mean, there's lots of things, lots of places where you can put something and then it'll go on to all the other people in that town. And so it's not like reaching a whole lot of people, but it's reaching a whole segment of people. And community TV. I mean, and also just writing letters to the editor of the local, whatever's left of the local press. The Boston Herald is been sort of really vociferous about being anti-Palestinian. So they're just sort of asking for people to respond to that.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to put that in chat, which is the community platform is next door. You might have been referring.
yeah,
to.
no, there's that one, and what's the other one? It's called starts with P. I'm blocking. But I'll look it up and put it in the chat. No, but there's lots of different kind of like in town, in each city that you can just put something in. And the other thing is great sometimes is you get it in one thing, it gets picked up by all the others.
Yeah, super. Okay, Eva.
We haven't talked about the senators. Are we ignoring them on purpose, or should we be doing something for them too?
Jeff or Cole, could you speak to that?
We definitely should, yes.
And how is that to be organized, Cole?
That is a really good question. We should have an intervention team for each senator if possible. Their offices are in the same building. Some ways of working, you can hit them both on the same visit. So maybe it's just one team for the two senators.
JFK building.
Sorry?
JFK building.
Yes, JFK building, indeed.
Yeah. I wonder if there are any volunteers, but I also want to leave space here. Is there anyone who hasn't had a chance to speak yet who would like to offer something to us? No? Steve, you got something for us?
Not anything particularly put together, but I was thinking about the question of Arthur Ross. So I'm just sort of wondering what his coalition looks like, in the sense that, all representatives are kind of figureheads for these larger coalitions. I mean, when people are talking about, the money thing being a potential thing that drives the positions that he's taken, is there some kind of mapping of that we could do, and that could reveal points of pressure that we could put on them?
Susan Mercy, do you have any kind of response to that?
It's an interesting thought. He is smart and ambitious, and this is something, his support of Israel has been there from the very beginning. So he's a very hard nut to crack, and just shrewd. Mary Ellen, he's shrewd. Yes, smart and articulate, and he wants to go far, and he's got money. There is no one to run against him. We have worked on that. So thinking about that is really interesting, and trying to find some forces that would pressure him is really a good idea, Steve. So, yeah, thank you.
Steve, do you want to be working with that group, the CD4 group?
Although it's not my district, yeah.
Oh, it's not your district.
Yeah, I'm in District 7 actually.
Which district would you prefer to work with?
It seems like since District 4 is a higher priority at this point, I'm fine devoting energy to that.
Super, thank you. Bonnie Ann, you have your hand up.
I just wanted to kind of speak because I hadn't spoken before. But one question I do have is that I participated in a protest with turned out to be young communists and social democrats or something. Anyway, down in Great Barrington last week, and it was really they were great. but it was a really difficult time. We had people coming up and screaming baby murder, and one man drove his car up onto the curb and lay on the horn. It was quite an unpleasant experience. I had several people come up to me personally because I had a sign, and were very threatening and really. So my question is just if anybody has thoughts about the group, the people were all lovely, and they have a protest planned for tomorrow at General Dynamics, which I'm planning to join. It's just I'm new to all this. I'm not new to protesting, but I'm new to this here. And yeah, so I just was wanting people's thoughts. I think reaching out, some friends of mine who are Quaker joined me in Great Barrington. There doesn't seem to be too much going on within the Quaker community. I'm not quite sure why. Yeah, that's it. I just wanted to say hello to everybody. And I'm in Richard Neal's district. I'm in the Berkshires.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Great to have your voice in the mix. Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you.
So Wayne and then Louise.
Yeah, I just got an email from one of the vice presidents at Berkshire Community College saying that there was an incident yesterday when we had a college and career fair where someone protested the presence of General Dynamics that had been given a table in our big connector room. And I haven't been able to find out anything more about that. I just sent Bonnie Ann an email. I don't know if you've seen it, Bonnie Ann, but
Where that was?
I'm trying to figure out who it was, who the protester was.
So where was it?
It was in Pittsfield at
you.
BCC at Berkshire. And there were a lot of tables around, people from different colleges. And one of them was GD, which isn't exactly a college, but it is for some people a career. And I don't know who it was or what group they represented, but just hearing Bonnie Ann's report about a group of communists and socialists, I figure there's a good possibility that the person was from one of those groups. I'm just wondering if anyone knew that. Cole, you're nodding. I don't know if that means you have a hunch.
Well, it wasn't Bonnie Ann. It was a guy named Michael in Springfield, I think, that sent me the Pittsfield protest tomorrow. And I think I forwarded it to you, Wayne. And he said, and I asked him who was organizing it. He said PSL and some DSA people. PSL being the Party for Socialism and Liberation. It is a communist group. They're the main group behind the action that happened here in Boston on Monday, which drew 2,000 or 3,000 people. So they're good organizers. I don't know whether the ones in Pittsfield are equally good, but.
Okay. Louise.
I was just
wait, Louise, wait.
Their rhetoric can be a little harder edge than ours, but they're basically on the same side.
I'm just wondering where did you send it to me? In the chat?
I thought I sent it to you by email, Wayne. If I didn't, it's because I'm all mixed up.
Okay, well, if I don't have it, I'll write to you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Abby.
Yeah. Louise, where'd you go? Oh, there you are.
Oh, here I am. No, I was just thinking that especially these days when there are so many unpredictable people around, maybe it makes sense for the people in the group to be aware of the possibility that there might be some unpleasantness, but also depending on what they think, maybe it makes sense to just run it by the police, the local police, just to let them know that not asking them to do anything, but to be aware of the possibilities.
Yeah, thank you. Dorothy?
Two action ideas. One is related to what Louise was saying. I'm kind of old. Do you all remember teach-ins?
Yes.
Yes.
Because that's really what you're suggesting. And Jeff would be brilliant. Several others of you would be brilliant. If we could figure out where to have them, who to invite, things like that. So that's one action idea. The other is that I was really distressed to see that MSNBC has suspended Maida Hanan, Amin Mohidin, and Ali Balshi. And I think we ought to all write to MSNBC.
Yeah.
I had trouble figuring out where to write them, but it wouldn't take much.
I wrote to them on Twitter. So it's shameful that they have removed these 3 people who are Muslims, which is Mehdi Hassan,
Mhm.
Iman Mohideen, and who's the third one? Ali Velshi.
Ali Velshi.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I do want to say, Laurie, I see your hand. I just want to say about the cops. So we had an event in Watertown on the weekend, and we notified a policeman that we were having it just in case. He didn't come into the library, but he was out in the parking lot in case we needed him. So that's one way. Why are you laughing, Cole?
Well, no special reason. I'm sorry, just a reaction. But
Okay, all right.
I think it's good he was there.
I guess it was it sounds like in Watertown you have a good relationship with the police. That might not be the case in every town. That's the other thing. But
Oh, that's a great point. Yes, we know him very well. Yeah,
Oh,
good
that's
point.
good.
Yeah, Laurie Hall?
Yeah, I saw that other people are writing radio stations. I wish we had a way of knowing the address. How do you write a radio station? You can't get an address.
Just look them up on Google.
Good.
Well, if you Google them, you get every other thing. Do you get an address to write? I don't.
Sure, yeah, you can.
Sure, every radio station has a physical building.
No, I mean, at the TV, say MSNBC. How do you write them?
Well, if you want to take them on my email, I'll be glad to send you addresses and names and contact.
Okay, but I need where to.
Well, I'll just tell it to you right now. Louise Coleman 10 at
Yeah,
AOL.com.
can you type it in the chat, Louise? for her?
Oh, all right. Do it
Thank
the right
you.
way. Okay.
Bonnie Ann, are you raising your hand again or you're done?
No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out how to take it down and I haven't yet. I'm sorry.
Okay. Any other
reactions?
Any other ideas for action steps?
Well, I think that how about a state legislator's letter, or I guess how about an academic's letter that crosses universities?
What does that mean, Cole? Does that mean that it should come from academics to academics, or what?
You know, that like they'll sign up on a statement and then they'll post it. They'll post it publicly, let it be known that so many people have this opinion. Like the somewhat mildly pro-Israel one we were discussing this afternoon, but maybe we could have another one.
So we would need to identify some academic who could, like Wayne. I'll just volunteer you, Wayne. Somebody who can write something. Oh, Mary Ellen has contacts in Southeastern Mass. Mary Ellen, can you reach out to them and see whether they can put something together?
Whether they can put something together, as far as I know, they haven't taken any leadership. But I have people who are sympathetic to Mass Peace Action.
You need an academic who's motivated on the issue, who's going to write the letter and spend the next 2 weeks rounding up every faculty member he can find. You know, that's the game.
Pat?
So I'm thinking that about the terrible propaganda that's in the press, and how to sort of get that to groups of people who are not in our circle. And Abby, I think, had some kind of alternative screening at the library in Watertown. So I'm thinking, and I've shown Palestinian films at the library, at my local library. So I'm wondering some kind of offer to have either show something or have a conversation in our local libraries, which we could then get some press about, 1, and 2, or maybe even like a house party or something with neighbors or other groups of people. Or maybe that will lead to some other ideas. And if so, it might be helpful to share, if anyone does that, it might be helpful to share ideas about how to structure that, how to promote that, so we don't each have to create our own structure, materials, and publicity notices.
Yeah. So can I just check with the group? We've generated a lot of great ideas. I mean, we spent most of our time talking about organizing in CDs, and I'm just wondering, we've got lots of ideas, but we need people who can carry them out. Is there anyone who has heard something here that you're you're saying, oh, yes, I want to work on that. Or I'd like to take the lead on that.
Well, I'm already signed up to do something about some kind of event in the town common of Harvard, Massachusetts, which is giving me a lot of angst. So if someone else is doing that, I would love to be able to talk about that.
To talk about the angst or to talk about the event?
No, how you navigate people who are like Israeli supporters who want to, have some kind of moral equivalency or something. They want to more individuals, and if you just mourn individuals, that's not very honest. So it was a very difficult conversation last night, and it'll be another one tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah. Kathy, you have your hand raised. Kathy.
Right, I've been struggling with an idea which is still very rough, but I've been so moved by the photos of victims, either side, the destroyed buildings, the bodies, the kids who were wounded, the people who are dead. And I'm just wondering if, and Louise could be helpful with her contacts, if we could develop some kind of photo essay or photo layout where we have a bunch of the worst photos, and then we have some questions at the end that are something like, does it matter if the bodies, the victims here are Israeli or Palestine? If they are one or the other, is it okay? I mean, to really confront people with the images, so it's not just abstract.
Okay, thank you. Susan Mirsky and then Louise.
No, just to say that, Pat, I'd love to talk with you, because here in Newton, of course, we can talk about anything except Israel, Palestine, and get a lot of that violent attacks. So let's talk.
Yeah, thank you. Louise.
I did put my email in the chat, and if people have questions about different press outlets or who might be interested in what they're thinking about, I'd be glad to supply that information as best I could. The other context that I've been sort of getting started dealing with is that it's not just the people that are being destroyed, it's also the environment's being destroyed. I mean, all the animals that the Palestinians had are being killed. I mean, they have lots of donkeys because that's what they use for transportation. And they're all, I mean, so there's lots of people who are interested in that kind of angle. Not that they're not interested in people, but it's like it's just an overwhelming catastrophe for everything, every living being.
Yeah, thank you. Mary Ellen and then Steve.
Yes, so I'm going to take the lead on a couple of things. I'm going to work with Susan on doing something at Jake Auchincloss's offices. And I'm also going to reach out to the academics I know. I have a couple of good ideas. And if there is a letter that perhaps a more prominent academic could start, I think I could get some signatories on that.
Super, thank you. Thank you for stepping up there. Fabulous. Steve.
I'm sorry to be adding more ideas without actually backing them up, but I did want to respond to Pat's thoughts about responding to the propaganda. And I was just reading a poll while we were talking by Quinnipiac University showing widespread support for the Palestinians amongst my generation, the millennials and Gen Z, versus relative, tepid support for Israel amongst Gen X and very strong support for Israel amongst older generations. And I think that, and if I can offer a perspective, I think that's because, that through social media or through personal connections, we have links, or we have connections. We know people like us who are Palestinian or who support the Palestinian cause or are sharing memes about it, or we're thinking about Twitch streamers like Hassan Piker, who's been outspoken about the Palestinian issue. I'm wondering if there's a way to bring the Palestinian perspectives to people who might not have heard it before. Like if there's some kind of deep canvassing that can be done in coalition with a Palestinian organization in some of these areas that are currently more hostile to the Palestinian rights.
Steve, did you say canvassing? What did you say?
Yeah, some kind of deep canvassing or testimonies or something to bring those perspectives to people who just haven't heard them before compared to and have just heard the Israeli side. So I think a personal story helps humanize the Palestinians, the Palestinian cause in a way.
That's great. I don't have the link, but James Zogby had a webinar today in which there were several hundred people there, and he had people telling personal stories, particularly about their family members in Gaza. I mean, it was heartbreaking, but it was great to hear their personal stories. They're not famous. The people who participated, they're like us. They're just people, and so they share this. Yeah. So one thing is to search online. Pat, what's the name of James Zogby's organization?
It's Arab American Institute.
Arab American what?
Institute.
Arab American. Can I share, Dorothy? I did see your hand, but there's something we can all do. It's such a small thing, but I spent a lot of time on Twitter following people, and a lot of Palestinians and people in Gaza post dreadful things that are happening to them. And I respond and I convey my condolences and how sorry I am to hear about it. We stand with them and they respond to me. They thank me for my response. It's a tiny thing to do, but we can all do that. Dorothy, where are you?
Abby, I'm sorry, who do you do that with?
So I follow people on Twitter, and then people post, from Gaza or wherever they are. And then I simply respond to them directly, or I reply to the tweet and I say, I'm so sorry to hear that. Yep. Dorothy, did you have something or you're good?
No. I can say though that every time I get so upset and so angry that I can't stand it and I can't work anymore, then I call one of the Congress people and tell them how terrible we're behaving.
Yeah. Kathy.
I'm just wondering if the MAPA newsletter could have a series, for example, of stories. I liked the suggestion just a few minutes ago of sharing people's stories. And here we have this at least monthly, and it could be more often. Maybe we should be featuring stories from all sides, or I think it won't work if we only do one side, but and maybe commentary on them, maybe open it up to invite people to submit comments to the stories in the newsletter.
Yeah, great. I'm sorry for my ignorance. What does deep canvassing mean?
Deep canvassing means, you try to get into long conversations with people on whose doors you knock, discuss their values, discuss their problems, and figure out a way to ultimately relate the issues.
I see. Thank you.
Sort of a
Wayne.
trend. But back on the newsletter, Kathy, I wondered if you would offer to be a focal point for anyone who wants to help with this newsletter piece.
I would be happy to do it.
Newsletter editor.
Good role for me.
Super, Kathy. Thank you. Wayne and then Mary Ellen.
Yeah, I thought the piece about where to find stories from Palestinians was left open. And I wondered whether Steve needed, and I would actually like also a link to, can we just find it by searching online for Arab American Institute or James Zogby?
I think you might be able, I'll look right now, but it might be on YouTube. But yeah, if you look for the Arab American Institute website, he
Okay.
might have posted it there. Mary Ellen, why don't you go ahead while I'm searching?
Oh, okay. So a couple of things. The first is we're brainstorming about specific issues and actions to take. I think what is striking me is that this is a really dangerous moment that could in fact pull in and create a larger, unfortunately, a larger war. And I'd like us to just keep in mind that this isn't a moment that the larger anti-war movement, it would be great if we could somehow think about how to, reinvigorate that kind of momentum, or at least interest in something. Because if this, the people, the American imperialism has an agenda, and it is very clear. And it may be a moment where people who maybe the last year or two weren't quite on the same page as us might be able to be drawn in, given now there's this effort to like sort of glom on all of these wars together. It's probably something that would take a lot of work, but nonetheless, just to keep it in mind. And the second is, because I switched devices mid Zoom, if the emails could be sent out after the fact, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
What emails?
The emails that were in the chat, I don't have access to them since I only have, the chat from 6:30.
I see. Yes, I believe we're going to do that. I'm going to post something. Do y'all know who Bassem Youssef is? He's a key comedian.
I'm sorry, who? I've
seen him, yes.
He's absolutely brilliant. So he had this interview with Piers Morgan. I mean, it's brilliant. It's very, very funny. You might think there's no humor, but he's either Palestinian or his wife's family is from Gaza. And he keeps agreeing with Pierce, who was trying to make a point, and he says, yeah, I agree with you. Hamas is terrible. And then he actually takes the role of being an Israeli and talks as an Israeli. It's absolutely brilliant. So I posted that. Wayne, I cannot find the link for the Arab American Institute, but hopefully if you look it up.
Okay, I will. Can you just say Bassem's last name again, please?
I put it in the chat, Bassem Youssef. Pat?
So I wonder if we can have two different kinds of lists. One of videos, because Abby, you've done this in the past, but there have been some recent, very short videos of people from Gaza reporting about, to help people understand just how dire it is. Like, and then people don't hear from them again because the electricity goes out or whatever. And also something would be helpful for me is a list of quotes that are on Twitter, or statements, positive statements from people like McGovern that are being made on Twitter that I can then turn around and use with my member of Congress. Is anyone following positive statements like that, particularly about McGovern? Tweets or X's? Are you calling X's now? I don't know. Anyway, that would be a very helpful resource for me, and I think perhaps some other people in other CDs, because McGovern apparently is making some good statements, and he is so highly respected.
Yeah, I do, as you know, Pat, I do collect these tweets, these posts, and something I put together was a post of moderate voices. I mean, I'll start crying if I tell you, these are people who have lost family members who are all saying, I don't want these people killed in the name of my family members who have been killed. And I've collected those. I'm just, it makes me cry. So folks, I think we need to wrap up. It's about 7 minutes of 8. Is there anyone who hasn't had a chance to speak who would like to say something? It's your last chance.
think we should lift up the stuff you've gathered, Abby. That
Yeah.
sounds great.
Yeah.
Oh,
And-
you my collection there?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd be happy to. Yeah, well, so Cole, I can send it to you. Can we create a list of people who've been on this call so we can send them things that they've asked for?
Yes, I have such a list. I haven't typed in all the email addresses. I got the names.
There are so many lists.
I
is-
know, let's not go into that. Let's not go into that now, please. Susan
still
Murphy, you get the what, Cole?
There is the question of follow-up. Are we going to meet again, or what, where do we leave we have an ongoing Palestine-Israel working group. It has met once a month. It feels to me that in this crisis, we need to up the pace somehow. So I don't know how that's going to work, but I just throw that out as a concern.
Okay. Susan?
I don't want to lose what Mary Ellen just said, which is something that, brought up initially in terms of what this means for a wider conflict, given also what Cole was saying about the US forces that are surrounding the area and our real motives for attacking Iran, and our involvement with Saudi Arabia, giving them nuclear materials. So this is a wider issue that we have to also deal with as we are dealing with the smaller issue of what is happening in Gaza.
Yeah, good point. So to Cole's point, I mean, Cole, are you thinking we should meet again next week?
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea since you asked. Yeah.
How many people think that they would come if we meet again next week? Can you raise your hand so we can see?
I'll try.
Looks like quite a few to me.
Quite a few. Okay, so are we gonna set a date later, Cole?
I don't know, Abby.
Why don't we just have it at the same time and then we don't have to think about it?
Oh, no.
Oh, no?
No. Can we, trouble is, when is the problem?
Yeah.
Monday night was better, I thought, than Wednesday, but I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't think we're gonna be able to do this to schedule something and I don't think we can do a doodle poll right now among this group. I mean, it's possible that we could meet next week, same day, same time, which is Wednesday, I think what was it, 6 o'clock?
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
But maybe Cole, Jeff, Susan, and I can talk and see what makes sense. Can we do
Okay,
that?
thank
And then
you.
we'll
Great.
send the message out. Everybody, thank you so much for your eager participation and all your great ideas. Thanks for volunteering for anything and everything that you've offered. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you, Abby.
Thank you, everybody.
Happy for
Thank
being
you,
care.
Abby.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Abby.
Wait, leave the chat. Don't turn
Leave
the
the chat.
off. I want to.
You can save the chat.
Not if you end the meeting.
No. I just saved the
Yeah.
chat myself.
And you're going to get it to me?
No, you can save the chat. I'm empowering you to save it on your own computer.
Not if you close the meeting before I find the three
I
dots.
see my hands.
You've got foot pedals. I know you have foot pedals.
And tell Cole, do not close the
I
meeting.
understand. I got the message.
Jeff and Susan have gone. Cole, what are you thinking about same time, same day, next week?
I think that's okay. There's a group called the Political Strategy. There's always other meetings, but 6 to 7, 7:30 is kind of clear next week.
Let's say 6 to 7:30. I think that should be enough time.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, that's not going to be a good day for me, but that's okay.
Sorry.
Sorry, who said that?
No. It's not a good time.
Unfortunately, this Bassem Youssef is a riot. He's very, very good. He was a pal of John Stewart, and he's actually trained as a medical doctor in Egypt.
Really?
Yeah, and then he decided to become a a comedian.
Yeah, comedian. He's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he's very, very good. I've heard him before, but I have to hear this one. Yeah.
Valentine, I
interview.
think you know who Trita Parsi is.
I certainly do.
So Trita posted it on Twitter and he said it was brilliant. So I do whatever Trita says, I follow it. So I listened to it at about 11:30 p.m. last night.
I'm going to
he's
listen to
brutal.
it or watch it right after this.
Mary
I
Ellen,
think
you
I've
saw it?
copied.
Mary
No,
Ellen?
he's brutal. It's funny. I mean, yeah, he really
So-
makes a fool of Piers Morgan.
So another organizational thing, even though only some people are left, may I create a Google group with the people that attended today? Would that be appropriate?
Yes.
Just so we
That's
can announce the
great.
next meeting and send out
Yes,
resources
perfect,
and stuff.
perfect.
All right, I will do that.
Okay, when can we
Yeah,
can we close the meeting?
Now close the meeting. All right, bye.
Got everything.
right.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.